What's up, guys? This is how to change a battery in an iPhone 4. It's just a regular iPhone 4, and this is going to be probably brutally long and detailed version. So this is for people who may have watched other videos or read online the written guides with some pictures, and you're still not sure, or you're having problems for whatever reason. This is basically with the iPhone 4. This model is basically 3 screws, and that's all there is to it as far as screws go. But I had a video which I'll put an annotation up of where I just showed the toolkit. Always, if you can, when you buy an aftermarket battery, buy the aftermarket batteries that come with the toolkits. I mean, this battery that I bought off of Amazon, it came with a toolkit, and the price was $14.99. You know, I think that's completely fair, especially when it comes with all the tools. You see some of the tools here off to the side. It has some more tools which I won't be using, but you can look at that video if you want to see what all the tools are that came with the battery kit and what they're used for, and you'll obviously see the ones that I used for actually doing this. So first, you want to get your phone, and you're going to want to remove the 2 screws on the bottom of the phone. Here's the phone, and got the bottom of the phone here, and the battery that I have in here, I don't know if it even show anything. I'll try to hold it on the button, and you see here I'm getting the graphic that it's low charge. This battery has been in there for years. I use this phone. This is not my primary phone, but I use this phone as a display in my car for a different application, and it no longer holds a charge for very long, so it's time to replace the battery. But many people use these phones still, iPhone 4s, for their primary phone. They're still great phones, very capable for obvious reasons. And then some people do like me and just use their old phone that they've replaced for a different reason, a different application. Whether you let your kids use it or you use it in your car for something. There's about a billion things you can do with a old iPhone. Anyways, like I said, get to the bottom of your phone where your charge port is and your speakers and everything else will be, and it's going to be the only place where you're going to find the screws. And you're going to want to look at the screws. They're very tiny, but you're going to want to look as closely as you possibly can and determine whether or not they are Phillips head, which is just a star pattern. It's going to look like a Phillips head is going to use a screwdriver that has an end like this, which is just, I don't know if this is going to focus in on the camera, but it's a star pattern type of screwdriver. Google Phillips head if you need to know more. It's not focusing in too quickly here. Let me try to stop moving. This is what I mean by brutally long. Bring this in even closer, maybe it'll focus. There it is. That's a Phillips head. You see, it's just a star pattern. Now, some of them will have the screws that are Phillips, but the majority of iPhones, even the iPhone 4s, use what are called Penelope security screws, and they use a screwdriver like this. And I'll get the camera to focus in on this one. It's going to take a second, but it eventually will do so. Any second. Come on, camera. You can do it. Try to turn sideways a little bit. Bring it in closer. Come on. Alright, let me pull the phone down for a minute. Maybe I can steady this a little bit. Alright, this is a very tiny, as you see, and I don't know if you can make that out on the camera. It's focused in now, but it's just a 5-point screw pattern. As you see, it's different from that star pattern. So find the only screws that are on your phone, which are going to be on the bottom, and make sure that you put the screwdriver in. In this case, it's the Pentalobe, and make sure it fits perfectly, because they're really small, and if you can't see well on it, you may have to get both type screwdrivers and just kind of see which one fits. A small Phillips head will fit and feel like it will turn the screw in, and technically it would work, but it's going to be more prone to stripping it. So use the proper tool, especially with the batteries come with both types. So get that in and to where it fits, obviously, and kind of just barely turn it to get some leverage to make sure you're in the screw properly. And be gentle. That's the best thing that I can tell you. Take your time and be gentle. So turn counterclockwise and just gently loosen the screw. And so I'm just taking my time here, gently loosening the screw, no rush. And then at this point, you don't want to lose any of these parts. I know it's completely done and loosened out. And so I'm going to allow these screws to fall over here onto this white cloth for contrast so I don't lose them. So I'm actually going to pick the screw out. I just pulled that screw out. I'll show the screw up, put it in my hand, and show you the size of the screw up in the camera. You see how tiny the screws are? And that little blue part is what's called Loctite, which may make taking the screw out require a little more force, but just still try to be as gentle as possible. And put this in some location, whether it's a box, an egg carton, just somewhere where you're not going to lose it. So I'm just going to stick it on there so I know where it is. Same process for the second one. Make sure if you have several screwdrivers like me that you grab the proper one. So the pentalobe, put it in for the next one. Make sure you got it in properly. Take your time, be slow, counterclockwise. Just slowly loosen it out. And I know my hands are blocking it, but you know what I'm doing here. I'm just turning a screw. Okay, same process. That one's all the way loose. And you can get it and actually just turn it if you like and let it fall if it's all the way out. This one's almost all the way out, so I'm just going to turn it and then pull it. And at that point I have it between my fingers. I'm going to put it next to the other one. So now you see both of them are there. So at this point, both of the screws are out of the bottom of the phone. And you can see that there, the two holes. So here's the phone. This is the bottom of the phone here. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, this is step one. You want to hold down, I can't believe I didn't start this, hold down the power button until the phone actually powers off, just for safety measures. And my battery is so dead that it's not even going to give me that screen. So this phone is actually powered off automatically. There's just nothing there. There's nothing left in the battery really. So I can't do the little slide to power it off. But if you have any juice left in it, go ahead and power that off so you don't hurt anything. So make sure you have the phone to where you're at the bottom of it. And from the bottom, you just want to gently put your fingers kind of like this. You can do it with one hand, but I like to just kind of get it like this. And just gently push up, because you're only going to push up about 1 millimeter. And the back of the phone, the back panel of the phone is going to come up just about 1 millimeter from the bottom. So you'll see that. Do you see that move? I'll do it again. You see it's slightly moving? Okay, and I'll show that in the camera. I'll pull it back down and you just push it and it slightly moves. That's as far as those clips moves. Don't push too hard or you'll break the clips in the sides that are actually holding this. So just push it enough to where it moves about that far. At this point, you can see there's a little gap there and this edges up. At this point, there's actually a tool that comes with these battery, most of all these battery replacements, and it's a suction cup, and you can actually place that on there and let that aid you in pulling this cover off. I found that completely unnecessary, as you'll see how easy this back of this case comes off for me. I'm gently just getting it and taking it off. That's it. So it should require no force whatsoever. And now you have the back of the case off, and you can place that out of the way for protection right now. You don't want to break that. And this is what your phone's going to look like once you have the back of the back panel off. So we have the battery, which is right here, and then you're going to have the battery clip, which is right here. I'm pointing to that. I'll use these. So battery, battery clip, and then the next screw, and the only other screw, the third screw, which is a Phillips head, I want you to get on the inside, so you're going to use a different screwdriver, is right here. I'll try to bring this up and show you exactly which screw that you're going to take out on this iPhone 4. It's going to be that screw right there at the bottom of this is called the battery clip, and it's coming off of the actual battery down here, and it's got a little thing that attaches it to the battery, and this is the clip that goes into the socket of the logic board. So this screw right here is even tinier than the ones we just took out, and it's Phillips head. So at this point I'm going to grab the proper, I have two Phillips head screwdrivers here. One of them is a 000 and one of them is a 00. The more zeros they have, the smaller they are, the smaller the ends, the tips of these are. And so I'm going to get the screwdriver and I'm going to try them both. And basically just put them in the screw that I pointed out already, but I'll get it up there one more time. And I'm just going to put it in that screw right there. And same process, really gentle. No, I don't use too much force. And make sure it fits. You know, kind of put it in there and go back and forth with it. If it feels too big or it's not gripping, and I'm using really gentle pressure, grab a different size or go get a different size, because you do not want to strip any of these screws. Now this one, which is a little bit larger than the other one would be a triple, and I believe this one is going to be a double, considering it should be the only two sizes that came with this kit. Actually fit. So I'm going to go counterclockwise here, and I apologize for my hand being in the way, but it's just removing a screw counterclockwise. Be very gentle. It's a very tiny screw, very tiny screw. It only takes a couple of turns and it's already all the way out of the hole, and it's stuck on the end of the screwdriver. I just happened to do that, so I'm going to just try to bring this up to the camera to show you the screw itself and how tiny it is, and keep my hand down there. Kind of helps it focus, and you should be able to see that screw and how tiny that screw is. So just make sure you don't lose that screw, and I'm going to place it with the other two screws. Pull this off and put it right there on the microfiber cloth that came, so you see how tiny that is compared to the other two tiny screws that we pulled out. So now you have all of the screws out, and the next part is going to be, you could technically start taking the battery out from here, but I would advise you, the way I do it anyways, is to go ahead and take the battery clip, this part right here, pry that part out of the logic board. And these pry tools that come with the kits that come with the batteries, just dropped one of them. These pry tools, it came with two different types, are very handy here. And you want to pry just from the top, just slightly get that groove in the top of the clip. Do not get down deep into the sides, like way down deep in here. Just get on the very tip of that battery clip and pry from the top, and if necessary, pry from the bottom as well. Be super gentle. I'm going to do it right here. It's in camera view. I'm just going to gently pry this, and the top just popped a little bit, and then I'm going to pry from the bottom just a hair. I could actually use my fingers and probably get this out, but I'm just using the tools just to kind of show how they work. But you want to be gentle. You don't want to get into the circuit, the actual logic socket there. And so now that's been pried out, and I'll show you what it's going to look like. This is attached to the battery and will no longer be used. And I'm prying that. I'm just pulling that out to the side to show you the actual board. This is the logic socket. This is the socket on the logic board of the actual phone. This is built into the phone. This does not come out whatsoever. And then over here we have the battery clip that we unscrewed, and we just gently pried out of that. At this point, you're ready to remove the battery itself. Now the battery has adhesive, a strong adhesive glue that holds it in, and this one was actually in my car for years, and so it went through extreme heat cycles. So they generally, your phone is going to look like this. It's going to have this little tab right here, and it's going to be about right here. I don't know if you're able to make this tab out, but it's going to be a tab that's connected to this glue type of material up under it, and you would pull this tab to pull the battery out. I actually prefer not to do that. You feel free to do so. I like to just pry on the edges of the battery, just gently taking my time and loosening it up on this side. It would be on the right side, the side away from the part where you just pulled out the battery clip from the socket. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go down this edge here and just gently pry. I'll pull it up, bring it up to the phone to show you where I'm doing this around the battery. And so I'm going to get this edge of this pry tool and put it down on the edge of the battery here. Let me turn the phone. I'm going to pry that just a little bit there and a little bit there, and if necessary I'll go to this side as well and gently pry if necessary. So that's what I'm doing at this point. I'm going to get that down and pry just a little bit until I feel confident that this is going to come out with my fingers fairly easy, and you just heard it pop fairly well there. Pry one more time there, and this edge is completely out of the side of the phone. I'll show that before I pull the battery. You see I just pry this edge out, and so now I'm just going to gently remove this. So now the battery, the old battery, is completely out. Putting the phone back down. And this is your old battery. As you can tell, I've replaced this battery before because I do not believe this is a Linmar battery. This is definitely an aftermarket battery, but it's going to look exactly the same. It may have Apple on it, etc., etc. if you've never replaced one, which you shouldn't have if you're watching this video. So just get that battery, and you wanted to properly dispose of batteries. You're not supposed to throw them in the trash can, but this battery is done. If you're replacing your battery, there's no more use for it, and this is what your phone is going to look like after that process has been done. It's still gonna have that adhesive material, especially in these. You see these little strips here, and this little top bit here. Those are what are gonna hold your new battery, which is here. That's what's actually gonna hold that in those locations. So my battery still has a sleeve on it, so I'm going to pull this sleeve off of it. And technically you wouldn't have to, but the batteries do get warm, so I'm just going to take this sleeve off of this battery, which I bought mine on Amazon. I think I've already mentioned that, and I'll put a link in the description to where to get this actual battery, and iFixit.com actually has good guides and good batteries. I'll put a link to that as well, so you have at least 2 resources for batteries that you can trust. A lot of people really like the iFixit batteries, and they come with the tools to install and all that good stuff. So at this point, you just basically want to, it's almost impossible to mess this up. Just make sure you don't put the battery in upside down where the battery clip that goes in the socket is on the wrong side. The socket's down here. So if I have this in, this is not going to work. You could obviously pry it out, it's fine. Just make sure you have the battery in, the words are going to be facing towards you if you have the socket down on this side. And you just want to put that battery into this slot. Just, basically put that battery in and make sure it's kind of straight in there. Nothing fancy about this. Just make sure it's straight and good in there, and then put some force on it, because it is going into, don't put like a ton, don't break your phone, don't break the front of your phone, but just kind of push on it so it gets re-adhesed to some degree with that with that adhesive that's on the back there. Alright, at this point you're left with the battery, the new battery, and the foam, and you have the new battery clip, which I'll try to get this up and show you. The new battery clip, which is gonna go into the socket. This is the most crucial point, I would say, is lining up this battery clip right here that's coming off the battery with this actual socket. Because you don't want to get that in to where you have it, like for example, if you have this kind of crooked and you're pushing down, it doesn't require any major force. All of this stuff is super gentle. And the best tip with that, in my opinion, is to line up. If you see here on the bottom of this, see if this is going to show it. In front of this, in front of my finger, is the screw hole. You see that screw hole there? That if you line that up with the screw hole that is beneath that in the socket, then you'll feel safe if it's perfectly aligned. If you can see that hole beneath it, the hole that is right there, you see that hole right in front of this finger right here. If you line up this hole that's on the actual clip with that hole perfectly, then you'll feel safe to push down and seat that into the socket. So that's exactly what I'm doing right now. I just wanted to point that out before I did it. So I'm gonna line that up with the hole, with the screw hole. And sometimes these edges where it attaches the little cord or whatever you want to call it, wiring, can make it kind of difficult to get this in there right. Some people actually put this clip in before they put the rest of the battery in. If it's not lining up and you just can't get this thing to line up properly, then you may need to take the battery out and do it again. Take the battery out, put this clip in, and then push the battery in. But you shouldn't have any trouble. Okay, I have it perfectly lined up, so you just want to put this kind of force, and it should click. So I'm just going to put gentle force. It's kind of hard to describe how hard to push, but just push barely and just slowly increase pressure until it makes a pop and you can tell it's in. So I'm going to be quiet at this point because it may make a noise. And it did not make a popping noise. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, and that is not in 100%. That's why it didn't pop. So I'm actually going to repry the back of that out because I don't trust that whatsoever. And I'm going to do this again because this has to go in properly. You don't want to bend any pins, and you want this in perfectly in that slot. That feels better. So I'm going to be quiet. Alright, it popped that time. But it's still not 100% in that slot. It would work. And if it's not going in the slot, I mean, this is a good thing, in my opinion, that it's not going in the slot. If you look at this, one edge is kind of pried out, and so you don't ever want it to be like that. The screw does hold that edge in, but you want this thing to be in that slot. So I'm going to go from the bottom in. I'm going to get this in that was angled out. I'm going to get that in and push that in first instead of the back. So I'm going to line that up. Hole is lined up perfectly. Alright, that made a good, nice pop. Okay, and that was the third time that I did it, and sometimes it's just not going to pop in perfectly flush, and I'm going to show you exactly what's going on here. This edge is going to lip out a bit, and then when you get that screw, that last final screw that goes in that screw hole right there, it's going to push this little bit, and it's going to hold that flat. That's the whole purpose of that screw. So at this point I feel confident. I'm looking at all the angles of it. It's definitely in the socket. It just needs that screw to hold that in. So you have 3 screws here. Obviously 2 of them are exactly identical, and they're the penelope screws. Then you have this really tiny screw, and that's going to be, again, the screw that holds this battery clip into the socket. So be real careful, because if you lose these, it's no good. So just have them in a good spot where you can easily recognize them. You could drop this in the carpet and never find it. So I'm going to grab the screwdriver that I used. Hopefully it was the one that I used anyways. And I apologize if this takes a minute, but like I already warned you in the beginning, this was going to be a really detailed video. I'm just going to get this and put it on the edge. Attempt to put this on the edge of the screwdriver. And it's kind of a balancing act here. Point is, I want to get it to where I can get this in the hole. No pun intended. And it's in the hole. Okay, at this point, once you make sure you have the screw in the hole, and I don't want to pick the phone up because it's very delicate. Well, I'm going to do it anyways because I'm going to try to make this as detailed as possible. So I have the screwdriver on the screw in the hole. I'm going to wait for it to focus well. And I'm going to try to angle it to show you all the angles. I haven't screwed it in yet. I'm just keeping pressure on it, a little bit of pressure on it, just to show you exactly what I have going. This is a Phillips head screwdriver and a Phillips head screw. So I'm going to actually screw it in. I'm going to tighten up my grip here. I'm holding the phone. I'm actually going to start screwing clockwise to tighten that down, and you should see that angle of that going into the socket becoming flat. Let me get this way so you can see that really well. And when you're screwing this in, like everything else, just turn it where it's hand tight. I'm going to grab the other screwdriver, the other Phillips head screwdriver that came with this kit, because it may fit a little better. Yeah, it does. And then I'll show you this really closely. And I'm just going to turn it a little bit. And you do not want to, just basically when you have the screwdriver in here and you're tightening up the screw on this socket here, you basically want it to be just in. Just tighten it till where it's finger tight. Turn this until it's finger tight, which it won't move easily with the screwdriver, you know. But don't twist it like a half turn more. You will strip the screw. If you want to tighten it any more, tighten it like 1/10 or 1/12 of a turn. But you will be okay just getting this thing finger tight, I promise you. So at this point, it's not a bad idea to go ahead and make sure that's in the socket. You're not going to hurt anything. But the safest thing is to go ahead and put the back on. But since I'm not too worried about this phone, I'm going to go ahead and power this on and see what happens. So holding the power, so just in case I need to adjust the socket back there, I'm going to hold the power button now. And there we go. We've got power, and we'll see what percentage of power this battery has with it. Usually they have something like 30% to 50%. Sometimes they're dead. Don't worry about it if it's dead. But it's obviously powering up. Obviously a good socket connection, but let's make sure the phone boots. And I'm not touching the back of the phone whatsoever during this. If you're going to do it this way and test it, just have the edges of the phone. And I recommend having that back on, even if you don't have it screwed in. But just make sure the phone is going to power up for you. And make sure it's going to boot into this, and this is taking a minute. So every now and then you'll get a battery that for whatever reason has issues with your phone, and your phone actually won't boot properly. But it's not the case with me, or it wasn't the case. Let's see here. There it is. Oh yeah, I turned the display really dark. Let me turn that display back up so you can see what's going on. Alright, display's back up, the phone's on, and this will focus in. You'll see there was 37%. It may have even dropped. But yeah, like I said, there's between 30 and 50% charge in the battery. That's pretty typical. Everything's good. I'm confident, so I'm gonna go ahead and power this back down. Hold the power button and then slide it to power off. And then I'm gonna wait for it to be completely powered off here before I put the back on, just to be safe. Again, I'm not touching the circuits or anything like that under it. So now the power's out. This is the last step, or 2 steps. You have 2 screws and you have the back. Now the back of this, just to kind of explain what's going on here, is the back of this, the back panel of your phone has clips. Let me try to get it at an angle where you can see these clips. You see these little clips? Let me get something to point them out. You're going to have clips, and when you're holding this, you'll be able to see them really easily. You have a clip there, clip there, clip there, clip there, and so on. All the way around the edges of the phone, you're going to have these clips. And they're not just straight clips. The clips actually are little hooks, okay? They're little L-shaped hooks like that. And so when you put it in your phone, when you put the case in your phone, the hook's going to go in like this, and then when you pull the phone case down, like we'll show you in just a second, it's actually going to pull down like this and lock. Okay, so the hook itself is going to go in just like that. I can't make a perfect L with my finger here, but it's going to go in just like that, and then as you pull the case down, it's going to lock. And that's why it works, and that may help when you're trying to put the back of the case on. Even though it's not very difficult, I know for some people this kind of thing can be daunting, and it helps to know every little detail you possibly can. So here we go. We have the back of the case, and you remember when we pulled the back of this case off, that we were just slightly, let me get this in the camera, we were just slightly over, and that's not slightly over. We were like a millimeter, and if you don't know millimeters, it's about like that, okay? So what you want to do is, remember you have these clips, and you can actually look down the side of the phone. I'll point that out as well. If you look down the side of the phone, you'll see where these clips will actually go in and lock in, and it's going to be the metal pieces. So I'm pointing to one now. I'm going to bring this up and wait for it to focus. And so there's these little metal extensions that come off the edge. When you look at it yourself, you see that little piece right there? It's right in front of this blue piece. Okay? It's this little tiny metal piece. And they run up and down, and that is what that clip is actually going to, you're actually going to put that clip, and when you're putting the back of the phone panel on, it's going to go in, and then when you pull it back down, it's going to pull in and lock. It's going to go in and pull in and lock up under that piece I just showed you. So, with all of that said, make sure turn your phone around, make sure you have it in the right orientation. Your home button's at the bottom. So now you can turn your phone over. You see your camera's right there. And this is a good opportunity that you could take your microfiber cloth and clean the camera from the inside, clean the inside of the camera here, on this part of it, and so on, to get stuff that you can't usually get to. But at this point, you want to just get this case, and again, you just want to slide this in. You're putting it in initially. I'm trying to keep this in frame, and I keep going out of frame. Like you just want to put it like this. It wants to go directly in. You're not going like this. You're not sliding it down and in. You're literally getting it at the right millimeter off of the edge, and then just pushing it straight into the phone. So I'm going to get it to the right area, and I just heard it go in properly, and I'll show you how far that looks out. Looks just like it did. It's out by that much, and you'll see the bottom of the phone here will have a little bit of a gap. It'll have about that much gap when you have it in properly. And then, if you can't guess by now, the next step, once you have these clips in, and make sure they're in, go down the side of the phone and make sure there's no gaps. Make sure on the back panel of this phone that all the clips are in properly and there's no gap. It's not accidentally out on something, because you don't want to break this back panel. So at this point, remember, there's a gap at the bottom and it's slightly over the top, just like, you know, a hair, literally a hair. You can use one hand or two finger, two thumbs, whatever, and you're just going to pull it down. And don't use much force. If it takes a lot of force, it's wrong. So I just did that and it went down, but I'm going to do it again. Up, down and in, up, down and in. From this angle, up, down and in. Make the whole phone. That's all it is. Okay, so that's when you push it straight down, it's going to be that far out. You pull down in, there it is. All right, I think I've explained that about as much as you can. And the final two things that you have to do is put in screw 1 and put in screw 2, and you're 100% done with your phone. Mine's actually booting up now, but it's safe now. The back panel's on. So you want to grab your appropriate screwdriver. It's a Phillips head. You use the Phillips head. In my case, and in most cases, probably your case, you're going to use the penelope, which I showed you earlier, screwdriver. And you're just going to get the screw and literally just make sure you don't like accidentally drop the screw in the charge port. Even though if you did, you could probably just turn the phone over and knock it out. Just be slow, careful, deliberate. Get that screw in the hole. It'll actually fall down in that hole a bit. If you can see here, it'll actually go down a bit before it starts threading. And so just put one of the screws in. Make sure you get the edge of the screwdriver, which I'll show in a minute. This is a penelope driver. And make sure you get that into the actual groove of the screw to where you feel it and you can turn the screw. So let me put this up close, and I've got it to where super close. So I know I am in that screw because I can turn it. So at this point, you just want to easily turn it clockwise or to the right, but clockwise is a better term. Just the way a clock goes, obviously. So clockwise until it goes all the way in, finger tight. Finger tight meaning just with your fingers. And now it's stopped moving. So basically, you could stop when this thing has stopped moving, but you could get a little bit of a nudge. We're talking like 10th, 12th, even a 15th of a turn, just depending on how you want to measure it. So just basically a touch more, just a slight bit more, and that's all I'm doing on that one. Exact same procedure for the next one. This next one, you want to get it, I'll try to put this in up close to the camera to show you how it'll show how it falls into the groove. So you have one screw in here. You should be able to see that. One of the penelope screws in and one of the screws out. So I'm going to get this screw, and it's kind of hard to do with my fingers in place, but I'm going to stick this in the hole and it will hold there. If you're really careful, let me turn it a little bit, I don't want it to fall out, but you see it kind of just sticking out there. Make sure you have the appropriate driver. Stick this into the end of this. Just be slow, deliberate, careful. And obviously you're not going to be holding the phone up in the air like this. It'll be a lot easier with it down on the table. But just make sure you're in, and when you're in, you can turn the screw. Bringing this up close so you can turn the screw, and again, you're turning it clockwise. And ideally, if you order new screws of this size and put those in, if you want to just go the extra mile. Otherwise, just screw this in clockwise until literally it stops. And it stops, and then you can put just a little, I'll keep this close. So maybe you can see how much I'm turning this. You can put a little extra turn. Actually went a little too far there. Because you don't want to strip these out at all. Because depending on how long you own the phone, you may have to replace this. You may break the back plate. This is a good time to replace the back plate if it's cracked up for some reason you dropped it. This will be the third battery in this phone. you know, so it's a 4, and that explains why. But each battery lasts a couple years, you know. That's not bad for 14 bucks or so. But let's make sure this is on and operating, and everything's good. We have 35%. So at this point, you're obviously done with your phone, and you want to charge it. So just get your old school charger or your charger, pop it in, plug this other end into the wall adapter or a USB port or whatever. Let the phone go ahead and charge up to 100%, and you will be good to go. No more worries, and the battery should be great. So once again, that is a complete, detailed, long. We're at 40 minutes. Wow. But I kind of expected that, of how to put a battery into an iPhone 4, which is really a 5-minute or less type of procedure. But you know, there's absolutely no rush, especially if this is your primary phone or something like that. I mean, there's just no rush. And again, with the iPhone 5s and 6s and so on, there are a few differences, but for the most part, it's a very similar type of process. You're taking screws off the bottom. You're generally removing the back in some manner. You're taking a screw or two out to where the socket is, pulling the socket out, pulling the battery out, putting a new battery in, and doing all the reverse to put it back on. But specifically, this is obviously iPhone 4 and iPhone 4 battery. This model is actually the 81349, and I hope that helps you guys out. Again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to put them in the comments, and I'll be happy to answer if you have any problems or anything went wrong. But yeah, take care, and I'm happy I've got a brand new battery in this phone because it was really bugging me. But be well.